You're listening to MANX Radio, and I'm Judith Lay, welcoming you to the podcast of the MANX Sky at Night with Howard Parkin.
The nation station, MANX Radio.
Twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are.
We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
And that is the familiar music that says it's time for us to welcome Howard Parkin into the studio for this month's edition of the MANX Sky at Night. Faster my Howard.
Faster my Judith, it's great to be here again.
Well, the weeks just fly by. Mind you, February is a short month, isn't it?
Of course, yes.
So it does, because I was thinking tonight, it doesn't seem any time at all since we were chatting.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is that there is always something to talk about.
Oh, always.
Always.
I can't keep pace with it myself. There's so much going on all the time.
Well, of course, the big thing that we have to talk about is the moon, the Museum of the Moon in the Cathedral in Peel. And I had the pleasure of listening to you giving a talk under the moon on Friday night. Absolutely fascinating. Lots of facts, lots of information, plus Wallace and Gromit and the Clangers.
And Pink Floyd.
And Pink Floyd. You absolutely had something for everybody. I must say that the Clangers took me quite by surprise.
Well, when I found that, I thought I've got to be able to use this.
Yeah, well, you did. So, Howard, there's been an exceptional number of people.
Absolutely amazing. It's been phenomenal. I mean, they've had thousands. I think even they've been delighted with it. I know, obviously, it was very expensive to get over. It was very big to install and all the rest. But what a wonderful place. And I have to say, I mean, I know I was the speaker on Friday night, but the whole venue last Friday night, they had a meal. They had beautiful tables all set up, and we had a lovely meal under the moon in the cathedral. It really was idyllic. You could have been in the centre of London or anywhere. It really was fantastic.
But that is what a cathedral should be.
Yes.
Because when everybody'd gone, and I was one of the group that stayed behind to help to sort out with all the lovely people from Philby's, and got every trace of the dinner went. Yeah. Every trace went. Everything, all the furniture was put away and everything was tied up, and it becomes the cathedral again.
That's right. It goes from being a community space in the heart of Peel,
yes,
to becoming a place of worship.
Yeah.
And that's what the church should be doing, and more now this is happening in places. And it was just so good. But
it doesn't take anything away. The fact that we'd had that dinner and the talk, it didn't take anything away from the core purpose of the building.
Absolutely right.
And it was lovely to come out in the soft light and see it all just ready.
Yeah. And the moon just hanging there. It is really, if you haven't been to see it, and I know we're a bit biased, but if you haven't been to Peel, you've got another week. It finishes this time next week.
It does,
so
yes.
So do go and get a chance. It's free to go in, please. If you want to make a donation, feel free to do so. But they had lots and lots of activities going on there. I've been there 4 times already. I'm going 3 times this week for various activities. But it really is an amazing sight to see. And it makes you feel humble when you consider what we've managed to do, and what we've managed to not just go to the moon, but to build this beautiful model and have it in the middle of the cathedral. Here's a bit of Eustace trivia for you. Now, I forgot about this one until I was there on Friday, and I forgot to mention it. You know the James Webb telescope we talk about?
Yes.
That has a mirror that's 6.5 metres in diameter, the one that unfolded up in space?
Yes.
The moon in Peel is 7 metres, so they're practically the same size. That gives you some idea of the scale of the James Webb telescope and the size of the moon in Peel Cathedral.
But do you know, it's interesting you mentioned that, Howard, because when that went up and we were waiting to unfold it, position it, unfold it, it was the big talking topic.
Oh, yeah.
And now it's kind of slipped off the radar because there's so much else that we're marvelling at.
Oh, yeah.
You know, these recoverable spacecraft and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
You know,
There's so much. And no, it really was. I'm impressed. I took my night. I must just tell you, we haven't rehearsed this, folks. Last Tuesday night, I took my night school class from the University College to see the moon in Peel Cathedral, then up to the observatory. I walked in and the guy said, "Oh, you're here for the talk?" Mark it was, one of the priests there. "Are you here for the talk? We've got a chap called Harold, I think it is, giving us a talk." I said, "Oh, that's interesting. What's he talking about?" "The moon." Oh, that's interesting. He says, well, I'm Howard. Oh, sorry, it's Howard, not Harold. He gives me a microphone and ends up giving a talk for about 15, 20 minutes all about the moon to all the people who'd come that night. Completely impromptu, but hey, I enjoyed it. And it's just great to share that with people. And if you get the chance, do go along. It is well worth it.
Well, we're not going to take up the whole programme, but I have to say,
could.
the thing that oh yeah, we could. But the thing that I thought was very, very special, and the organiser, Rosemary Clark, the project coordinator for the cathedral, Rosemary Clark, told me this. And of course, we've had a week of the schools going in, then a week of half term. And she said there were children coming in half term who'd been with their school and brought their parents back.
Yeah, to show it to them.
Isn't that lovely? That it's made sufficient impact.
Yeah.
That the children wanted to bring their parents.
It is. And it's great because it's got people into the cathedral as well. It made us realise what a beautiful space. And now the floor's been done. The floor is magnificent. The whole place is great. And I just hope this is the first of many such events they have in the cathedral, because it has been spectacular in so many different ways.
Well, it's doing things that the community enjoy, and they seem to be enjoying this one. So
definitely. Now,
talking of enjoying things, even I could find my way around the sky last night.
Yes,
it was
Friday night. Saturday night.
Yeah, such a good sky.
It was a beautiful, really crystal clear evening, and I joke about people going on about this aligning up of the planets. Well, what's happening? Jupiter and Mars are getting closer to Venus. And actually, the other night, as you say, the sky was breathtakingly clear. We had Venus shining like a beacon in the west. And in the south, you had Jupiter and Mars next door to each other. And the three of them in a lovely line there with the sky. It was just breathtaking. And all the stars were there. All the winter stars, which we talk about quite often at length, they're going to be slowly disappearing into the west soon. But take a good look at these, because Venus is going to disappear in about 3 weeks' time. Venus is rapidly dropping to the horizon, and you won't see it anymore until it comes back round in, I think it's July. It'll be back round to the morning sky for us.
Yeah, just I should have asked you before we moved on from the subject of the moon. Eclipses.
Yes, indeed. Curiously, yes, I mentioned that in my talk on Friday, because when you look at an eclipse, you're looking at the moon covering the sun. And we've actually got 2 eclipses taking place in March. On the 14th of March at 3 o'clock in the morning, so I hope you'll all be up watching it.
But of course.
I should hope so, especially you, Judith. I will be asking questions later.
Listen, Howard, I'm generally up at 3 o'clock in the morning anyway.
I think it's 3:57, you can never lie. But basically, we'll have a lunar eclipse taking place on the 14th of March at 3:57 in the morning. That's when it's at maximum. And this is when the Earth actually passes, the Earth's shadow goes over the moon. So the moon will be a beautiful silvery full moon like we get when we have a full moon, but it will slowly, steadily darken, and it will eventually go a deep red colour, as the red light of our Earth's atmosphere is refracted more than the blue light, so it goes red. And then that will take place for about an hour, and then slowly but surely it'll disappear. So that's in the 14th of March at 3 o'clock in the morning. But on the 29th of March at 11 o'clock in the morning, we're going to have an eclipse of the sun. It's only a partial eclipse of the sun. It's actually not a full total solar eclipse anywhere on the Earth. It's a partial eclipse, but the moon will about a third cover the disk of the sun. But please be warned, do not look at the sun directly. Use projection techniques, use a pinhole camera, or ask a friendly local astronomer to show you how to look for it. There's lots of eclipse glasses around from the last eclipses, so if you've still got a pair of them, make sure they're okay and use them. Please never, ever, ever look at the sun directly.
No, indeed. Just another little point. I'm sorry to go on about this, but I was talking to a friend earlier in the week who's been to see Mars, which is again by the same artist, Luke Jerram, and he went to see it in Rochester Cathedral because he's in that part of the world. And he said he's seen Gaia and he's seen the moon. And he said, I think the difference is that Gaia and the moon have more impact because we've seen them. We can look at the moon. Yeah. We're standing on the Earth. So the Earth, Gaia fascinates us because it's what we're living on that we're seeing. The moon, we look at it, we imagine, and we can even see, as you say, the different colours and shadings. Yeah. But he said we've never seen Mars, and so for him, impact. It didn't have the same.
No. It's funny because when I've been at the cathedral, every time I've been there, I've been asked about 2 or 3 times by people, we need someone with a laser, so I just take one out of my pocket and point out the Apollo 11 landing site and all the other features. And with the Mars, of course, yes, I can point out the different features on Mars where they've landed different unmanned spacecraft, but it's not going to have the same impact. The first question from any child I got when I did the talk there a week last Saturday was, where did they land? can you see the footprints? Can you see this? Can you see that? And I pointed out exactly where they landed on the 6 missions they landed on. And that was, again, and then, of course, we see the faces of the moon. We see the man in the moon. We see the far side of the moon, all this sort of stuff. It's as I did in my talk on Friday, there's so much folklore, mythology and legends about the moon that I could talk for hours on it, as indeed I did on Friday.
Well,
not quite hours.
No, you didn't. I think you picked out a very fair cross-section of things that were a little light-hearted and things that were very, very interesting, particularly because, the years go by and the progress is made, but we are still fascinated by the idea of people walking on the moon.
Indeed.
And it's still awe-inspiring, isn't it, after all these years?
Even after 20, 30, 50 years now. And of course, we're getting ready to go back to the moon with the Artemis missions in only a couple of years' time now, 2027. So our interest in the moon will be revisited, and I'm sure there'll be lots of fascination and all sorts of stuff about that.
I am absolutely sure that there will be. There is, as we always say, there is no shortage of things to talk about.
No, there certainly isn't.
Graham has just popped his head around the kitchen door and he's listening. He said, but I've seen the photographs of the moon in the cathedral, but I bet they don't really do the display justice.
No.
Actually, everything in life is better in reality, isn't it, if you see it? But I have to say that there's been some beautiful photography taken that really gets you can get a very good idea
the wow factor, I think,
of what it looks.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
You walk in and you think, wow, look at that. You think, it's just being a model of the moon. It's not a model of the moon. It's a
it's
dirty, great big moon, 7 metre diameter moon.
I tell you what I think is really strange about it. It's an illusion, I know, but it looks like you could touch it.
Oh, yes. And the mountains look like mountains and the hollows look like hollows and all the rest.
But you do look like you could reach up and...
Yeah.
And
well, if you do go and see it, listeners, if you do go to see it, stand directly underneath it, directly underneath the south pole of the moon, and look up and look for the biggest crater closest to the south pole. And that's where they're going to land, in Shackleton Crater in 2027.
2027, we're 2 years.
Only 2-3 years off, yeah. 2 years, 2 years.
It's not. Yeah,
That's the plan.
Obviously, we're going to have a lot to talk about when we get.
Most certainly.
But let's just stay with our own local sky. What else do we need to be knowing, Howard?
Well, as well as seeing the planets, we have had Saturn visible, but now it's more or less disappeared into the twilight. We've still got Venus, Jupiter, and Mars in the sky. But exceptionally, because it does whip round the sun very quickly, we've got Mercury, and Mercury is going to be visible this Saturday and Sunday, 1st, 2nd and 3rd of March, directly beneath Venus on the western horizon. If you get a clear night, and it really needs to be a clear night at sunset, as soon as the sun goes down, give it about half an hour, 20 minutes, and look for a bright star, but very much in the light sky of a sunset. And you will, directly below the very bright Venus, look for a faint star. That faint star will be the planet Mercury. So we've had Mercury, Venus, Saturn, Mars and Jupiter, all the naked eye planets clearly visible from our island shore in the space of the last few weeks.
And although they're not perfect, we do have the most wonderful dark skies to enjoy them.
Indeed we do.
We wouldn't be seeing that if we were in London or Liverpool.
Oh, not a chance. You might see Venus. Well, you would see Venus because it's so bright.
Yeah, sure.
But you wouldn't get the spectacular view we both saw the other night when you go outside. It's the wow factor again. You see it. But listeners, another trick for you to do. I might have mentioned this last month, but give it a go. Look for Jupiter, which you can't miss. Jupiter's that very bright one in the south, in the constellation of Taurus, if anyone knows what the sky's like. Look for the red planet Mars to the left of it, and to the left of that are two bright stars, the stars of Gemini. In a matter of weeks, Mars is going to start going backwards. They're going in what we call positive motion again. And it's going to whip through the constellations of the zodiac very quickly. It's going to go through Cancer, through Virgo, and into the next one, which is Libra, between now and next September, when it will then disappear behind the sun and then re-emerge around the other side of the sun at this time next year.
And I was just thinking, listening to you, Howard, you're going to be getting upset very soon, aren't you, about the light nights coming along?
Oh, very much so. I've noticed tonight, not tonight so much, but I noticed the other night I went out and it was actually still daylight when I left the house. I think it was coming to pee on Friday, actually. So we left very early to get there. And it was still light. And I thought, wow, this is so much better. But as an astronomer, I think, what a shame.
You're very torn, aren't you?
Absolutely.
Right. Okay. Well, I know we should have something to do with the planets tonight, but I thought for our music break, we'd stick with the moon.
Okay.
classic from Mike Oldfield and Maggie Reilly.
Thank you, Judith.
Moonlight Shadow, Mike Oldfield, Maggie Reilly. It's our music break during this month's edition of the MANX Sky at Night. Time now to welcome back Howard Parkin, who's got his spacesuit on. And what is happening in the world of space exploration?
Everything. Everything's going on all the time. I can't keep pace with it, Judith. This next week is going to be very exciting because we've got a load of things going on this week. SpaceX are hoping to launch the 8th mission, or the 8th Starship launch is meant to go on this Wednesday. It is subject to all sorts of different things, so it might not happen, but they're usually pretty good now at launching when they should. This is the amazing one where they catch the rocket when it comes down. Now, they haven't announced yet whether they're going to try and catch the top of the rocket, the actual Starship itself. I know that is on the cards to be doing in one of the next few tests, and it might well be this one. So keep your eyes and ears peeled for launch from Boca Chica in Texas on the 26th of February, or possibly a day or two later. That will be very exciting. Then we've got on the Friday, we've got Intuitive Machines launch number 2. And this is the private space company that launched to the moon and landed there in January last year, which actually carried on board an experiment for a company called Lone Star. And Lone Star is a company operated and run by our own Chris Stott. Chris Stott is the Chief Executive Officer. He is establishing, or his goal is to set up data centers on the moon. So you've got a data center on the moon. You can access your data from the moon. You don't have to worry about war, pestilence, famine, natural disasters or anything. Your stuff will stay up there. You just have to use the communication system to get it. He put a virtual or a small digital version of the Manx flag on the moon last January. It wasn't widespread reported, but he did. And I understand they've got another experimental package on Intuitive Machines number 2, launching, as I say, this Friday. All very exciting stuff, and with a very strong Manx connection as well.
Well, we love the Manx connection, but that's just, it's mind-boggling, isn't it?
When Chris first told me about this, I thought, is this really needed or necessary? And when you consider it, you think wherever you put your data centre in the world, there's always a problem, or there could be a problem at that location, be it weather, be it terrorism, be it pestilence, be it strikes, energy cut-off, you name it. This thing is going to be totally solar-powered and be basically placed on the moon, and all you've got to do is have the relevant receiver on the Earth to access your data, just like we access stuff on the internet now.
But it seems such a long way away.
Well, it's the most convenient location. If you put it in space in orbit, of course, you've got the problem with the orbit decaying and the up there and everything else.
Yeah.
But stick it on the moon, it ain't going to go anywhere, is it? So
no.
And he's attracting interest in this, and obviously there must be a financial benefit for it, if they wouldn't be doing it.
Oh, but yes.
It's, as you said, the cutting edge, and the stuff, it becomes obsolete. What we did yesterday is obsolete tomorrow. And everything's just running ahead at such a rapid pace.
Yeah, although I think this must be stimulating for young people, because
very much so.
For them, this is their moment to take these things and run with them, and they're geared up and trained for the fast pace of discovery and innovation.
I mean, you come up with an outlandish idea these days is, well, is it feasible? Can it be done? I mean, catching rockets, launch a rocket and then 7 minutes later catch it. Come on, that's science fiction. That's Thunderbird stuff. Doing it. We should play the Thunderbirds theme, shouldn't we?
Is that the thing that they call the chopsticks?
Yeah, the chopsticks. And you actually see them move into place. The rocket hovers there at an angle, and then it comes in and they catch it with the chopsticks.
Amazing. Amazing.
Godzilla is another other words for it, I think. I've called it Godzilla. Or Mechanzilla, that's it, Mechanzilla.
Well, whatever it is, it's just mind-boggling. But at the same time, what's this news about Boeing laying people off?
Well, that was a bit of a story I picked up that wasn't very well widespread, but Boeing have announced they're laying off a lot of their staff to do with the SLS rocket, the American rocket, which is the rival to SpaceX, if you like. This is the successor to the Saturn V rocket that they launched to the moon within the 1970s, 69 and 70. And NASA have got this brand new rocket, the SLS rocket, which they have launched once in 2022. And there are all sorts of rumours knocking around that it's going to get scrapped, which will be a huge shame because they spent a huge amount of money on it. But, of course, this rocket is totally disposable. Nothing comes back other than the crew capsule with the men on board, men and women on board. And there are strong rumours going around that this rocket may well get... And they may keep it going to get the men on the moon with the first rockets back in 2027. But I think the long-term future of the SLS rocket... SLS, wonderful name for a rocket. It means Space Launch System, SLS. But the Orion capsule is already is sufficiently well developed as well. And Orion is being built by Boeing as well. But that is going to be the crew capsule to take them to the moon, or take them to the lunar orbit, and then they're going to land on the moon using a SpaceX Starship, the like that they're going to launch for test launch again this Wednesday. So it's all coming together, but watch this space. There's a lot going on in America at the moment, as we well know, and not all good news sometimes.
Doesn't this point, and it's something that we've talked about before, about the need for working collaboratively?
Yeah.
Because if you're working on something and putting billions of pounds into it and somebody just gets there quicker with the next step, yours becomes obsolete overnight.
Of course it does.
So surely the only way
is
to
cooperation.
Is to cooperate, so that the development goes at the same pace.
Exactly. Well, that's why this Intuitive Machines rocket, there's another one that's in orbit around the moon now, a Japanese one. There's lots of private industry trying to do all sorts of stuff on the moon, which obviously we're talking about anyway. But it's the nearest place we can get to and test the technology and all the rest. And what is completely unspoken is the Chinese. The Chinese are slowly pushing ahead. They've landed on the far side of the moon. They've got their space station up there, which they're going to extend and put another module in pretty soon. They've already said they want to go to the moon and onto Mars. And they're not bragging about it. They're not doing much. They are publicising it, but we don't bother to watch it in the West. But the Chinese, I think, are going to give the US a run for the money when it comes to getting back to the moon and indeed to Mars.
Well, it was quite a significant list that you showed us during your talk on Friday night of all the people who are involved in space exploration. Countries that you don't hear about.
The Czech Republic, Luxembourg, Pakistan. lots and lots of them. The big missing one, of course, is Britain, which is a huge shame. But hey, that's there.
But the Isle of Man is putting a satellite on the...
Did you notice on the slide? I did make sure we had a Manx flag on it.
Of course, I
noticed. There was a little Manx flag there to show that we had the Odyssey moon mission and indeed the
Of course,
the data
I
centre.
noticed.
I should hope so.
Now, I'm going to choose my words very carefully because I don't want to upset you. But the astronauts who've been working in space for quite a long length of time are due to complete their mission and come back, aren't they, Howard?
Indeed. The two who are, inverted commas, marooned in space.
They're not marooned, are they, Howard?
They're not marooned at all. But President Trump and Elon Musk made a comment the other day about bringing back the marooned astronauts. They're not marooned. They never have been. As I said last month, and I've said to lots of different people who keep asking me this question, they could, if there's a problem with that space station now, this minute, there is sufficient capacity to bring them all back tonight. That is what they've got. They've got lifeboats. Effectively, they have lifeboats on the space station. They've got a 4-seater SpaceX Dragon and a 3-seater Russian Soyuz. So the 7 people up there, all 7 could come back tomorrow. If they did, it would probably be abandoning the space station anyway. It would be a real crisis if they had to do that. So they're not being marooned at all. They're just coming back on the next crew rotation, which is in March. I think it's late March, early April, one or the other.
There'll be quite a bit of excitement, I would guess, to see them again.
And I think the media will no doubt make a huge thing of it. I feel sorry for the other 2 that come back with them, because they'll all be about the 2 who've been marooned rather than the other 2 who are just coming back at the end of their normal crew rotation.
Well, I don't know. From what I've seen of the people who had to stay up there, who was unplanned for them to stay, they are strong team players.
Absolutely.
And I don't think that they will let their focus be on any... Well, the pictures we've seen have been all of them floating around and working.
Butch Wiltmore and Sonny Williams. He's been out spacewalking. She's the commander of the space station at the moment. Very, very professional astronauts, and that's what they do, and this is what they're good at, and they're trained for it, and they know very well when they launch or they do something, you've got to be prepared for contingencies of all sorts, be it coming home very early or staying up there for longer. And it would be nice to see them back, and I'm sure their wives and their families will be glad to see them back.
I'm sure they will. Now, how likely is it that there's going to be an asteroid collision in 2032, Howard?
It's just been downgraded from a 3.1%. So remember, 100 it's going to happen 100%. That's the worst scenario.
Yes.
Well, this was a 1%. Then it went up to 2, then it went up to 3, and now it's gone back down to 1 again.
Right.
It's because the area of uncertainty about this object's orbit. When you've got an object in orbit round anything, you need to observe it 2 or 3 times to work out its precise orbit, using the calculations made by Kepler back in the 17th century. That's how old it was. But this particular object, this 2024 YR3, I think it's called, is moving almost directly away from us. So you can't get a line on its trajectory very well because it's moving almost straight away from us. So until it comes back round properly in about 2027, 28, then they can really work out exactly where its orbit will be. And if there's a chance of it impacting the Earth, they're now saying it's more likely to hit the moon. Hope it doesn't hit Chris Stott's data centre. That would sort of destroy all his ideas, wouldn't it?
That wouldn't be very nice.
It wouldn't be nice at all to hit our moon. But that's the latest theory. It's probably going to hit the moon. Not probably hit the moon, but it's more likely to hit the moon than the Earth. It is 90 metres in size, and if it did hit the Earth, it will be in the equatorial region, so there are various cities in its flight path, if you like. But the chances are very, very small. And to be quite honest with you, NASA have already proved a deflection technique with the Didymos mission in 2022. The Chinese have got one going in 2027 to perfect the technique even more. And I think it's highly likely, but by 2032, we'll have the wherewithal and the ability to deflect it if it should become a problem.
I was actually going to say, I seem to recall Mr. Parkin telling us that they had a deflection technique. So even if it is heading for us, which as you say...
We've always got Bruce Willis, of course. Bruce Willis will go up there and sort it out for us.
Who needs Bruce Willis when you've got Howard Parkin? But what we can't do is extend the time. And I'm afraid it's 10 o'clock, Howard, so I've got to let you go. Howard Parkin, as ever, thank you very much indeed for joining us for this month's edition of the Manx Sky at Night. We look forward, Howard, to talking to you again at the end of March.
Thanks, Judith. Good night. Faster mine.
The Nation Station.